Hello and welcome to the Emmy Awards. I'm your host, Emmy Cardinale, and this is my podcast where I talk about what I've been watching or rewatching once a week. If this is the first episode of mine that you stumble upon and you enjoy it, please feel free to follow me wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're listening to this on YouTube, like and subscribe so you can get notified when I upload a new episode. My social media is linked down below, and I tend to update on Twitter if I'm delayed, but sometimes I don't always share the link. I schedule the episodes and then I forgot to post when they go live. So it's just good if you enjoy the coverage to follow me wherever you listen to podcasts so you can get notified when the episode goes live in case I'm not notifying you. Obviously, you don't have to do that. It's all voluntary, but it's also free. So whatever you want to do is up to you. As the title suggests, I will be talking about Bachelor in Paradise, The Summer I Turned Pretty, and then Big Brother 27. I am currently covering Big Brother 27 every week with a few other shows sprinkled in here or there. I will probably continue to talk about The Summer I Turned Pretty, debrief after the episodes until the season's over, just because I always have a lot to say. I'm really enjoying talking about it, so I'm going to keep doing that. So timestamps will be in the description if you want to skip to Big Brother. If you want to skip to The Summer I Turned Pretty. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Bachelor in Paradise and then sandwich in, I'm going to do the two reality shows as bookends, and then I'm going to sandwich the scripted show in the middle, I guess. I don't know why. That's just how I want to do it. But thanks so much for tuning in. It means a lot. Any other disclaimers? I'll give this disclaimer again at the beginning of the Big Brother section. But I did not watch BB Unlocked this week. I'm sorry. I saw some clips, but I didn't watch it. I don't really care. I'm sorry. I like that they had Jimmy on. The thing about Big Brother Unlocked, you know what? I'll go on this little Big Brother Unlocked rant when I get to the Big Brother section. So skip there if you care about this. Anyways, first show that I want to talk about is Bachelor in Paradise. So the episode this week I really loved. I think it was one of my, I don't want to say favorite because it was depressing, but I really liked the challenge as well. I will say, and this is not an original thought, I've seen other people say this, but the challenge basically for this week on Bachelor in Paradise, it was kind of like you answered questions, and if you matched with your partner, you got a point, but also if you matched with somebody else 5 times, you would get the opportunity to do secret rendezvous. And the thing is that nobody wanted to do secret rendezvous because everyone's pretty solid in their couples. So it just kind of would have been more interesting in a time when things were a bit more up in the air. And I also think at a time when maybe people don't know their partner super well. So it's you're just, not that they're not answering, honestly, but if you're playing the newlywed game and you're thinking, or it's not the newlywed game, but if you're thinking, okay, if we match, we'll get a point, then maybe if you remember that their favorite role play is cops and robbers, you'll write cops and robbers, even if that's maybe not what your ideal fantasy is. So I think there's something about doing it at this point where maybe people know their partner's answers that I think it would have been more interesting at the beginning when people are just answering purely for what they feel. I don't know. The timing of it, I liked the competition. The timing fell a little bit flat. But the real meat and potatoes of the episode was the whole Bailey, Jeremy, Brian situation. And this was fascinating to me because we had seen for weeks, obviously they were building up to Bailey's going to find out about Jeremy and Susie and the stuff he's been saying about Susie, because obviously Bachelor producers are mean sometimes. At least more times than not, when they're including something like that repeated throughout the season, it's because there's a point to it narratively. It's not like they're trying to set up something. They add those things to the edit to make us doubt them, or they're forming a narrative, right? That's what the editors are doing. So if they showed us multiple times of Jeremy saying this about Susie, obviously there's going to be some kind of payoff, right? Especially because Bachelor in Paradise doesn't have a men tell all reunion style moment. So it's not there's any moment where Jeremy will get his confrontation moment, So those hints, it's like they're building up to like Bailey finding out because they break up, or Bailey finding out because she's told. And we had also obviously seen in the previews, but even if you weren't watching the previews, it's like them really honing in the fact to us, the audience, that Jeremy is hung up on Bailey, quote unquote. Like, that was for a reason. So I was expecting there to be this confrontation. The part that really caught me by surprise was the fact that multiple people knew, because I thought that this was like some kind of information that Brian's like individually had. The fact that so many people knew and didn't tell Bailey, I think, is what hit me the hardest. I don't know why I'm like tearing up thinking about this. I am PMSing, so, and I am one of those people who does get hormonal. So that's just my truth. It isn't like that deep in like she's fine, but I think there is just something that I always, and I feel like I may have said this maybe even last week, but I know I've said it on the podcast about like one of the things that always makes me like the most uncomfortable watching reality TV and somebody being wronged on reality TV is like the idea that like they're finding out that they're being betrayed or led on or whatever with the audience. Like, that part is what always really gets me, because it's like I don't know, I just can't imagine that kind of experience. Like, it must already be hard to like watch yourself back in a moment where like there was tension, obviously, like, but then to also like, I don't know, that kind of stuff always really like messes with my head, is like the idea of like watching back a show that you've been on, because there's a bunch of stuff that you didn't get to see that then you'll see back, but also obviously it's not like a full picture 100% like just raw footage of what happened. It's like produced into an edited show to be the most entertaining it can be for an audience. So it's like I imagine that that's a very like jarring experience. So I always like try to have that in mind too. But anyways, I really was surprised about the amount of people that knew and didn't tell Bailey, because like what gets me about that, and I was very confused by the whole like it was Jeremy's to tell her, because it's like, yes, it was Jeremy's to tell her, but he hadn't told her. He hadn't told her, and you're on TV, so she's going to find out. I understand somewhat the hesitation. Like, I don't want to judge them for not telling Bailey. I think the part that really was like, what the hell, was when they got mad at Brian for telling her. Like, that part really caught me off guard, because it wasn't like they were just like, maybe we should have told her, we didn't think that we, like, even I think, for example, Alex, I don't think Alex had that bad of a reaction. She was just kind of like, I didn't want to betray my friend Jeremy, and like, while I don't know if I agree that that was the best thing, and she's even put out a statement saying that she should have told Bailey, like, I'm not gonna like crucify anybody for their decisions. At the end of the day, the people involved are Bailey and Jeremy and Brian and everybody, and that's their business. I'm commenting on what I saw on television, but obviously it's not my life, and I'm not gonna hold somebody's, like, I'm not gonna hold a grudge on behalf of Bailey, who is a stranger to me. Like, you know, that's between Alex and Bailey, but in terms of like what we saw on TV, I think the part that really gets me, and the part that I feel like I mean, obviously I have a right to comment on it, it's on TV, but I think it's just like sometimes people take things too far, where they make like character judgments, or they make like assumptions about like, I don't like what kind of friends people are. And I think that there's a lot of like confusion in these situations too, and it's like, I don't know, I'm not trying to judge who any of these people are individually, and I could even understand like some of their thought process of like, it wasn't really my place to tell. I think the part for me that is a little confusing in that regard is like, she's going to find out anyway because you're on TV. Like, I feel like, and I've never been, maybe that part gets lost, right? Like, maybe you're not actively thinking like, we're going to be on TV, and that's easier for me to say because I'm watching them on TV, right? And I've never been on a set. Like, maybe if you're on a reality TV set, like, you're aware of the cameras, but to some extent you aren't like actively always aware of the cameras, because then you would like act disingenuous. Like, maybe there's something that people like a guard people let down when they're on a reality TV show in order to be more authentic, where they're not actively thinking about the fact that they're going to be on TV, right? So maybe it's something about like a mindset that I've never experienced, so I can't really like understand, and therefore it doesn't make sense to me that they're not like, well, we're going to be on TV, so she's going to find out anyway, because maybe when they're recording the show, they're not thinking, oh, we're going to be on TV, because then that would like make them freeze up and not like be authentic. I don't really know. I'm all over the place, but it's just like that was really confusing to me. Like, was that Jeremy's? Like, the part that bothers me is them getting mad at Brian, because it's like Bailey wasn't even mad at Brian. Bailey was grateful to Brian. And at the end of the day, why are you mad on Bailey's behalf? Like, I guess maybe you're mad on Jeremy's behalf, but it's like Bailey is the wronged party here. She's the one who something shady was done that hurt her. If she's grateful that she learned the information, then why are you, as an outside party, mad that she somehow learned this information? And I also think it's hard because we have the information that people were telling Jeremy that Bailey should know, and he just didn't tell her. I think also, and I wish there was some kind of like mental all after the final rose reunion thing where we could maybe they could answer questions about things like that, because the part that I feel like keeps getting lost, because this seems like it was specifically like more people knew that after Susie went home and Bailey went on a date, Jeremy called Susie. Like, people knew about the Susie call and that Jeremy was like having second thoughts, right? More people knew about that, but like Jeremy at the bird thing, which was like 2 days ago, right? Like, the other thing was like a week ago, which is like 5 weeks in Paradise or something. But the bird dance day where he was like, I wish Susie was still here, that just happened. It's like, that's the part that confuses me. And also, like, I want to have some kind of grace and understanding that, like, things are spliced together, and if things are set off base, who knows when that audio was interjected. But obviously we know that he was like, I'm going to say this without my microphone on, and they were like in their bird costume, so this was somewhat recent. So in that regard, it's just like, and I said this last week, and I stand by it, that I don't think that it came, and I think honestly this episode validated that perception for me. And I feel like my read was spot on, like, not to toot my own horn, but I do think that it was more about Jeremy wishing that he had gotten to, like, try his options, right? Like, he had a vision of Paradise, and it was like, I'm going to come to Paradise and explore all my options. And he thought that he was going to, and then he didn't. That he was a little bit after, he was like, I don't know if I got my full Paradise experience, but I don't think it's that he isn't super into Bailey. And I will say, well, I didn't love Jeremy's reaction in a lot of the moments in this episode, I did appreciate the moments in the ITMs when he was like, that was like, I'm here for Bailey. Like, it wasn't, and that could maybe be saving face, and it's like, who knows? But I do genuinely, and I do think they're probably still together. I do genuinely think Bailey and Jeremy seem good together, and it seemed like they like each other. And at the end of the day, that's their relationship to commit to, and like to work through problems. And I also think, like, honestly, the biggest problem was the withholding of the information, and the fact that, like, other people knew, like, that a bunch of people knew and Bailey didn't. Like, that's, in my opinion, the worst defense, because I don't think going on a dating show and then it's like you're not fully committed to that person yet, that's not like that bad of an offense to me. It's honestly, it's the fact that a lot of people knew the information and Bailey was like the last to find out. Because I imagine, I mean, I've never experienced this, but I imagine finding out that they kept it from you makes you feel like there's some kind of reason that they're keeping it from you. And like, there's a deception there. And if they're keeping that from you, it's like, how honest are they actually being? Like, how much do they like me? Like, she immediately was like, I want to go home. Like, I understand, like, that to me, I think is the worst part. I really like Bailey. I really like Bailey, and I really want her to be happy. And I hope if she is still with Jeremy, they're working through it the way they need to. And I wish her happiness in whatever way she goes. I also don't think Jeremy is like a bad guy. I think he handled it poorly. And I think that makes him human. And I'm not trying to vilify anybody in the situation. It's just honestly very confusing to me, the withholding of information. I also feel like I tend to be, sometimes I am kind of secretive. If like things bother me, I won't communicate it. But I feel like if I was in a situation like this, maybe I'm just too much of a viewer of reality TV, where I'm like metagaming it, where I'm like, if I was on the show, I would be super worried that I was on a show, and I'd be like, okay, I want them to possibly know everything that I could have said or done on camera. So like, there's nothing that they could find out. So like, I don't know. Like, and again, maybe that's easier said than done. And I don't think that Jeremy necessarily was keeping it from Bailey for like a malicious reason. I don't know. I think the biggest flaw in it, like the biggest thing that bothered me was the fact that a lot of people knew and didn't tell Bailey, and then that people got mad that Bailey found out this information instead of being like, because people kept being like, well, that was Jeremy's to tell her, but it's like, but Jeremy didn't tell her. So if that was Jeremy's to tell her, shouldn't you be upset that Jeremy didn't tell her instead of being upset that somebody who wasn't Jeremy told her? Like, that's the part that like it's like, yes, that was Jeremy's to tell her. He didn't tell her. That was information she deserved to know, regardless. So, like, why are we mad that somebody told her instead of... Anyways. And also, like, Brian telling Bailey, like, I'm going to stand beside him in this one situation. I, like, really was hard on Brian last week, and I stand by everything I said last week about Brian. Okay, I'm not, like, taking back my Brian slander. Not that it was slander. It was my opinion. But I'm not taking that back. But I think people are not one-dimensional, and no one is a one-dimensional, like, Machiavellian TV villain. And I think Brian is a complex human being, just as I think Jeremy is a complex human being, who I think has like his good moments and made mistakes, but I don't think that makes him a bad person. I don't like think that Brian is a bad person necessarily. I don't know him, and I don't want to judge him based off of an edited TV show, because that feels like wrong to me. And I think that this was a perfect example of like, yes, Brian was nasty, he was hurtful, he I don't like the way he treated Parisa in moments, but I do think that he was a good friend to Bailey in the situation. And I don't think, and like, maybe there was some level of strategy to it, but I think like, it was genuinely like he saw the opportunity of like, oh, there is an opportunity for us to have some kind of because basically they matched up in the secret rendezvous thing. So he wanted to meet with her then, because that would be a moment where it was like nobody would be around, so it wouldn't be like an awkward moment where they're in a group and then he pulls Bailey, and suddenly it's like, why is Brian pulling Bailey? And there are eyes on their rendezvous, right? It would be a secret rendezvous. But Bailey thinks it's like, Bailey's like, doesn't understand what the invitation is, and she like doesn't want, like, at this point she's like, is Brian interested in me? This is weird, right? So she doesn't go to the secret rendezvous, but they have a conversation anyway. But it really didn't feel like a thing to me where it was like I don't know. And obviously it didn't help him, because then everybody was mad at him. Like, that was the part that really got me, because it's like, not to repeat myself, but if like your whole argument is that it was Jeremy's to tell her, then be mad at Jeremy for not telling her. Don't be mad that somebody else stepped up and did it. And like, maybe a better way to have done it would have been like give Jeremy a warning, like give Jeremy the opportunity to be like say, if you don't tell her, I'm going to tell her. She deserves to know. We're on TV. She's going to find out eventually. Like, maybe that would have been a slightly better plan, because the other people who went to Jeremy weren't as firm as like, you should tell her. If you don't tell her, I'm going to tell her. So like, that does place it on him where he could then do the right thing and tell her instead of Brian being the one to interject, right? Maybe that would have been a better way to diffuse the situation. But I also understand that Brian and Jeremy don't really have the relationship where maybe Brian felt like he could do that. But besides that, also interestingly enough, Parisa and Brian, like, I just feel like there's so much we don't get in Paradise, which, like, obviously, but even just the fact that, like, they were so on the rocks at the end of the last episode with, like, almost going home, and then they're, like, fine and, like, super, like, they're chilling and hanging out on the beach, and it's, like, spirits are fine, and there's no tension between them at all, and it's, like, it's so clear to me that there's so much we don't see, which is why I don't want to, like, write off Jeremy, and the way people are like, Jeremy doesn't like Bailey at all. I'm like, you guys don't know these people, and, like, that's the narrative the show is trying to sell you because it's more dramatic. Maybe let's not act like we know the interworkings of this relationship. I think especially with couples from Paradise, we do not see like 90% of their relationship. A standard Bachelor couple, most of their dates are on camera, and obviously things are cut down to like a lot, but most of it you probably get like a little glimpse into like more of their interactions. Again, it's still edited down and it's still cut down and all of that. But like with Paradise specifically, it's like they're together a lot of the time. They sleep together in the same room. There are a lot more couples. So there's just a lot more you don't see. They spend like all their time together. So the relationships are deeper, and also like there's just more we don't know and we're not privy to because the editors are trying to juggle so many relationships and also like the drama. So it's really like silly to me to act like we know Jeremy and Bailey's dynamic in a like significant way in order to act like to judge Jeremy and how much he likes her. And I do think that he likes her, and they seem compatible, and like I don't know, I wish them the best. I don't have anything else I needed to say. Who went home? I don't even remember. Well, nobody I cared. I think it was a golden couple, so sorry to the Goldens. One of the golden men was having like heart issues. I think they sent him home. That was sad. I hope he's doing okay. Okay, the next show I'm going to talk about is This Summer I Turned Pretty, season 3, episode 6, I believe. Great episode. Episode 5, undefeated in my brain still, but brief thoughts. Belly and Jeremiah crashing in Adam's apartment, cringe. That's so embarrassing. Like, I'm sorry. I don't know. There's like a level of codependent that Jeremiah and Belly are. Like, it's unhealthy. Like, I don't care how in love with somebody I am. I would rather be caught dead, sleeping. Like, maybe this is just like a cultural thing too, but I'm like, I can't imagine, even if I was engaged to the person, I can't imagine like sleeping on like a mattress, like, you know, on an air mattress at my like my boyfriend's dad's apartment. Like, I would be so mortified. I'm like, no, that makes me uncomfortable. Anyways, I'm not gonna be super negative. Then obviously the whole them looking for apartments thing, another situation where Jeremiah just continued to piss me off so much. Like, what do you mean that he's like, in theory, if somebody was late on credit card bills, would that impact your credit score? No. It's called a credit score, but no, not at all. Like, what do you mean? Obviously, if you're bad at if you're not paying your credit cards, that's going to impact your credit score. Are you stupid? Also, aren't you literally interning at like a finance? I don't know what they're called, finance department. Like, doesn't your dad do something in finance? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean that you? And like, maybe he was saying that like cheekily, but it's like, what do you mean? And then it's like, your dad pays your credit card, and he's like, no, but I opened another one. It's like flop of the century. Okay, your dad pays your credit card, and you still have to open another one for like tickets. Like, grow up. Okay, sorry. And then he's like, we'll just find an apartment that doesn't require a credit check. What are you talking about? Also, this is why it really bothers me that Jeremiah and Belly don't have like, okay, not to get too into the weeds of the discourse, because I feel like I always rant about that on this podcast, but you know what? I don't care, actually. I don't care. Talking point that I see people who are Team Jeremiah consistently use is that Jeremiah is like, he communicates, right? Conrad standoffish, doesn't communicate. Jeremiah communicates. I do not understand how people watch the show and genuinely come out with the idea that Jeremiah and Belly have healthier communication. Does Conrad have his issues with communication? Yes. I'm not going to say that Conrad is like master communicator, most effective communicator ever. I'm not going to say that. But to act like Jeremiah is an emotionally intelligent communicator is genuinely absurd to me. He doesn't communicate. He just like pouts, and then Belly, because she can't, she's taken on this role with him where they don't compromise. She just concedes to everything to appease him and not upset him. They have no healthy dialogue. There's no, like, even when they push back, it's like they always, like, they don't have healthy dialogue. They don't have healthy disagreements. And all of that to say, if Belly had been assertive enough to say, hey, I don't want your dad getting involved in the wedding, then maybe his dad could help with the apartment. Because like genuinely, between the two, and maybe this is a controversial take, but I feel like if you're going to get your parents help with one thing or the other, I think housing is more important, especially because, and like, again, whatever, when you are trying, and maybe it's different in different states, and this was just my situation because I was moving to LA, but it's like, you need like proof of income, and at least, again, I don't know, whatever, but in California, you need to like make 3 times, like your rent needs to be like a third of your income or something for you to qualify. And if you don't, then you need like a guarantor or something, right? So it's like, even if you have a good credit score and you have like an income, which I doubt either of them are going to have full-time jobs because they're going to be students. And not that you can't afford rent with part-time income, especially if there's 2 people in the household, but it's like I don't know, maybe they're different, like, you know, but I feel like with housing specifically, it's hard to like get a place, especially because you need to pay like first security deposit. Like there's a lot of like expenses to moving that I think if you're going to get your parents help in one thing, that's more important, because it's like where you live and it's long term. Whereas like they didn't even want anything fancy for the wedding. Like Belly clearly is hesitant to get Adam's help because she doesn't want Adam to have a say in everything in their lives, which I understand. But it's like, if Adam's going to help you with anything, it should be like your housing. And if Belly was assertive enough to be like, hey, Jeremiah, I don't want your dad involved in the wedding. We don't need his money. We don't need something that extravagant. Like, we'll be fine. Let's just do something intimate, which is what I want. If she had been more assertive in that, right, and he was more receptive to the fact that she didn't want to do it that way and cared more about what would make her happy over like his own ego and pleasing his father and like all of that, then like maybe the housing wouldn't be such a big issue. It's like, you need to pick your battles. And like, believe me, I really don't like depending on people more than I need to. And I like went through a lot of phases where I was like, I don't want to rely on my parents. I want to do things on my own. I get it. I get the whole, and obviously I'm not comparing my relationship with my parents to, like, my parents are not Adam. I'm not trying to say that, okay, by any means. If my parents listen to this, I'm not slandering you. Not that they are. They don't even watch the show. They wouldn't understand. But my point is, I understand the impulse of like, no, I don't want other people's say. Like, I love living alone because I never have to worry about like, if I like a color of a chair or I really hate a chair, I never have to like worry about somebody bringing a chair that I really dislike. Not that I honestly, I don't think I care enough about furniture, but it's just like, you know what I mean? Like, if there was something, or like even something as like little but important as like air conditioning and like the temperature of the home. Like, I like that I can just, my apartment can be as like cold or as not cold as I want. I am not somebody who actually really likes air conditioning blasting a lot, okay? Most of the time I don't have the air conditioning on unless I'm like genuinely dying of heat. And there are some people who need air conditioning more. I like the fact that I don't have to like, And I'm not trying to sound antisocial, and one day if I get into a relationship, I will be happy to compromise. I compromise in other aspects of my life. But my point is, I understand the impulse of like not wanting other people to have a say in like your living situation and in this, that, the other. But it bothers me because I'm like, if they were able to like compromise in a healthy communication, they could, and maybe if they were a little bit more mature too, they could be like, I don't want your dad involved in every aspect of our lives. What's more important? Where we live is more important. So like, let's ask him to co-sign this lease so we can get a nicer place and then not have him involved in the wedding. I don't know. Anyways, that whole thing really bothered me. The fact that Belly was like, he was like, it doesn't need to be perfect where we live. It's like, no, it doesn't need to be perfect, but it does need to be like a decent living. Like, Belly's allowed to have limits. Like, you can throw a fit about a cake, which is literally like $750 for one day. But she can't not want to live in like an unclean apartment. Like, the smell of cat piss, super valid, okay? I have cats. I understand. Like, I get the struggle, okay? Especially if you don't have a cat. Like, if your apartment's, not that my apartment smells like cat piss, okay? I would like that on the record, but I'm just saying, like, if you have a cat, at least there's a balance to it, you know? You're like, oh, it kind of smells like pee right now, but, you know, my cat's here. Anyways, like, that part really bothered me. Whatever. The look through at the club also really bothered me. She's, like, overwhelmed by the situation. She calls him, and she's like, I don't want to look out. Like, she's having all these reservations about the wedding. And again, instead of, like, trying to, like, he doesn't prioritize her. Like, he's like, my dad's, she's like freaking out about the scale of the wedding. And instead of being like, you know what, it doesn't need to be that big. I'll talk, this is your day. I want it to be what you want. I'll talk to my dad. We'll see if we can scale back. We don't need to invite all these people. Anything, like literally anything. No, instead it's like, my dad's really excited. He like shuts down her feelings. It's like, no, but my dad's really excited. And she's like, I don't want to look out into the audience. I don't want to look out into the crowd to a bunch of people I don't know. And he's like, then just look at me. And then the voiceover is like, if we cling to each other, it's like, why is this so stressful? Why this, like, stop. It's really bothering me. Oh, okay. Then Belly goes to cousins. Conrad's there. What is he doing? The crossword. Where is he doing it? On a physical newspaper. Case closed. I'm Team Conrad until I die. Jeremiah probably doesn't even know they still print newspapers. Flop loser. No, I'm kidding. If you don't know me, like, you're just stumbling upon this, or you only listen to the podcast and like you don't know me personally. I design newspapers for a living, so very easy way to win me over is if you like buy print media. I'm like, love that. So that made me happy. Anyways, there's tension between them, obviously. Then the next day, she goes to the club, and then the next, when she gets home from the club, he like had made her food. Then he notices that she didn't eat the food. He texts Laurel. They meet up. And like, I've seen a lot of discourse about like Laurel only cares about Conrad, and like Laurel didn't listen when her daughter was crying and begging, but like Conrad said something and then she like listened. It's like, no, it's the fact that Conrad going to her is a big deal, and she recognizes that, so she realizes it's serious. Do you guys not understand like context and like the story? I don't know. Sometimes the way people, anyways, I don't need to. Laurel recognize, she knows Conrad, she knows the pain that Belly and Jeremiah's relationship probably causes Conrad. She knows all of this. She knows this, and she sees the fact that him coming to her is a big deal. Duh. So that's why it's a shift for Laurel. Like, yes, she and Conrad have like a bond and an understanding, and they like know each other deeply, obviously, like that's been established, but it's not about that. It's about the fact that Conrad is very distant and like separated from the entire dynamic, and Laurel probably understands on some level that it's because of everything that happened with Belly. Laurel's not stupid. She probably sees it. And you know, one little rant that I want to go on really quickly. people always talk about, like the Team Jeremiah people specifically, always talk about like Conrad still hung up on his ex from 4 years ago that he dated for 6 months. And it's like, you guys want to talk about timing? And like, he knew this girl his whole life, cared about her deeply. They get into a relationship. His mother dies. He withdraws. They break up. Or actually, I don't remember if they broke up before. Then, like, very soon after, Belly starts dating his brother. What do you guys mean? What do you mean? If you want to talk about timing, I don't think it's completely, like, unreasonable. Like, people are like, he hasn't moved on. It's like, do you not think that would be a very emotionally difficult experience if, like, somebody that you love deeply, the only person you've ever loved, who you knew your whole life and you loved very deeply as a person before you loved them as a romantic partner, that they start dating your brother like 3 months after you break up and like 2 months after your mom dies? Like, what do you mean? I don't think there's anything wrong with Conrad like not being able to move on. Like, he loved her very deeply and she just started dating his brother immediately after. But it's weird that Conrad hasn't moved on instead of like that's an objectively like difficult thing for somebody to go through. Like, anyways. Like, I really don't like anyways, it's fine. But all that to say, Laurel understands this. Laurel probably knows how much he loved Belly and how difficult this is. And she probably recognizes that if Conrad of all people is coming to her and saying, hey, you should be involved in this wedding, that's a big deal. It's that simple. It doesn't need to be some nefarious, like, twisted thing where Laurel cares more about Conrad's opinion than her own daughter's. Like, why do people have to vilify every character on the show that is somewhat against Jeremiah, okay? Be Team Jeremiah. Why do you have to make everybody the villain to make it seem like he is, like, the ultimate, like, victim in this situation, okay? Please, enough. Anyways, and then the wedding shower, loved. Was such a huge fan. Rosie the dog. Immediately when Steven was like, Rosie went up to Conrad, I was like, duh, because dogs can sense dogs can sense vibes. They just can. And I really liked what that represented, because obviously it's not like about who the dog found. It's about the fact that she had like romanticized this idea of Jeremiah that was actually Conrad. And not only was it that Conrad was the one who found Rosie, but that this idea that she had of like how sweet it was that he cared so deeply for this dog that he cried when her owners came to get her, which, side note, that's not his first pet then. She wasn't his pet. It was an animal they found and cared for it for a little bit, okay? Maybe a foster. Sorry, not to be a hater. Maybe they just didn't have many pets. But, like, Rosie wasn't technically a pet. But, like, the point was that she thought that story was so sweet and romantic. And it was actually, not only was it not something that Jeremiah did, but, like, that happened to Jeremiah, but Jeremiah actually says on the phone when they talk later that he and Steven made fun of Conrad when Conrad cried when the owners came to pick Rosie up. I'm just saying. So, anyways, Jeremiah continues to bother me. I have to say, I love the way that Conrad talks to his dad. He's like, I stopped caring about your opinion. I'm a big fan of Conrad. I really am. I am. What can I say? I love Conrad. Call me Bye Bye Birdie. Or no, wait, Conrad. Birdie is Conrad. I didn't know anything about Bye Bye Birdie. I did really like that scene in the episode where I didn't know. For some reason, I thought Birdie was like the female protagonist but no, Birdie, his name is Conrad Birdie. I looked up the plot of this musical after, because as much as I am a musical person, that is not one that I'm familiar with. Obviously, I've heard of Bye Bye Birdie, but like I didn't know the plot of it. Basically, it's about like a teen idol who gets drafted to the war, and a bunch of people, and specifically, okay, this is what Wikipedia said, and I'm like, that is like the most. I'm sure like the music is good and it's like romantic and everything, but I'm like, that's such a like non-plot of a musical ever. Anyways, it's about the plot of like getting him to kiss the main character who Belly says that she always imagined herself as on like TV before he drafts for the war. I'm like, that's not a plot. No hate to Bye Bye Birdie. Maybe I'd love it. But anyways, moving on. And then the pièce de résistance, the main course, the main dish, right, of the episode was the ending, which was phenomenal. I loved it. Belly's at the beach house. Conrad gets injured, and like that was, I love that. Their tension palpable. Just also like the way Conrad, and I'm not saying this is healthy because I understand that like it's not healthy to not say, hey, I'm bleeding, can you help me when you're bleeding? Okay, I get that. But there's just something about somebody who would like try to handle things themselves instead of just, like I don't know. There's just something about the way that Conrad is that I just feel like makes for a better partner. I'm sorry. I would rather be with a Conrad who maybe can't communicate the best than somebody like Jeremiah, whose form of communication is like pouting and like centering their feelings and then making it like you have to concede, you know? Like there's no acknowledgement of like Belly's feelings. And if there is, it's like very brief, and then it just, the focus becomes about him again, and it's just her appeasing him. Like Conrad, like I don't know, because Conrad's like form of communication, like that's something you can work through. No, obviously Jeremiah's you can work through too, but it's just like getting somebody to trust you and then to be like, hey, when like there's a solid ground. And also the way people talk about like the context really matters, and I've said this before, but like like most of the times that Conrad hurt Belly, it's because he was going through something. Jeremiah just like disregards Belly as like an instinct. I'm sorry, like that's just my perception of their situation. But it's like Conrad, as he's grown and he's in therapy and he's working through his feelings, he's getting better at communicating, because it's not something that he's doing maliciously. It's something that he's doing, like the intention, the motivation is that he doesn't want to burden people with his problems, which obviously isn't healthy, because people in your life want to be able to support you and help you and all of that, obviously. But there's a difference between that and then somebody like Jeremiah, who like the intention behind it is like so self-interested and self-focused and like, but what I want, but I don't, you know, like there's very little compromise and ability to be uncomfortable when it comes to Jeremiah. Conrad will make himself uncomfortable to his own detriment, which isn't healthy, but it's a little bit more like you can work with somebody who like doesn't, like who struggles to ask for help because they don't want to feel like a burden. That's easier to work with. That's whatever. That's just my opinion. But like, anyways, Belly helps Conrad. The tension is palpable, and then her voice over where it's like, and even Lola Tung said in an interview that like it's like a moment for Belly where like all this stuff she's been holding in, and it's like that's the point. Okay, like the thing is, Belly never got over Conrad. She didn't. She jumped straight into the relationship with Jeremiah. I don't know. I'm sorry. I can't get through it. But okay, there was something I wanted to talk about, and I forgot this because I went on a million tangents. But there's a moment in the shower, the bridal shower, where Belly's having a conversation with Taylor, and Taylor's like, or Belly's like, it's like clearly she's overwhelmed, and she's like, I've been thinking so much about the wedding that I forgot that I'm gonna be somebody's wife. This is my opinion, but I feel like she said that because it's like being Jeremiah's wife isn't about being his partner. It's not about them committing to each other. She recognizes that she's going to end up taking like a maternal role. Like she's going to have to care for him. That's my opinion. That's my read on the situation. That's just my opinion. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion. I think she recognizes that Jeremiah isn't going to be an equal partner and carry his weight. And that's not the kind of, like, that was my read on the situation. Like, I just, Jeremiah, and I think he has a lot of issues, and I can recognize that, like, he dealt with a lot of things and was, like, disregarded a lot in his childhood. And believe me, that's stuff, I'm not discrediting the fact that Jeremiah has things he needs to work through, too. I'm just saying that the impact his behavior has, in my opinion, is more harmful than the way Conrad behaves. Because I think what we've seen is, like, in my opinion, the worst result that Conrad's behavior had on Belly was that she left. She wanted out. The impact that Jeremiah's behavior and approach to their relationship has on Belly is that she feels she can't. She doesn't have agency. I would rather be with somebody who pushes me, who like pushes me away from them and is so distant that I'm like, there's a freedom there. And yes, it was a freedom that ultimately was like away from him. But there's a sense of being stuck with Jeremiah that I feel like can't be understated, because it's like she doesn't feel comfortable going to Paris. She doesn't feel comfortable. She doesn't want to leave and not sleep with him because being near him is easier. There's like a level that they can't be away from each other that isn't healthy. There's a constant concession of her feelings. It's like, to me, that is more damaging than somebody who pushes you away, somebody who like holds on so tight and like removes you of so much like autonomy and freedom and the ability to say like no. And I'm not saying that he's like refusing her from saying no, but I think their dynamic is so much of one where he doesn't compromise that it ends up becoming this thing where she just concedes to like, I don't think that's healthy. And I think that's worse than Conrad, especially because Conrad is obviously trying to work through stuff, right? And there's a huge change in the way that Conrad is interacting with Belly this season than the past 2 seasons when he was struggling a lot more. And I think that really emphasizes that Conrad, his flaws and the ways that he was hurting Belly was because of what he was going through more than because of that just being his personality, where I think Jeremiah's personality, again, probably because of his own issues and like therapy can, whatever, he's a fictional character, but I'm not trying to like, whatever. I don't know. And maybe that makes no sense, but I feel like there's something better about somebody who like, you can break up with them, you can leave, you can be like, screw, like there's a freedom. Like Jeremiah positions, I would prefer somebody who's like, I don't want to be with you over like, I don't know what I would do if you weren't gonna like the way Jeremiah constantly positions situations is very manipulative and very like, I'm sorry. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's healthy that you can't have like a productive disagreement with somebody, that you're worried about being their wife because clearly that means you're going to mother him. That's just my opinion. Sorry. Okay, now on to Big Brother 27 week 4. We on week 5? I don't even remember. I think week 5. Yeah, week 5. So sorry. So Big Brother 27 week 5. So Jimmy went home. I was devastated. Don't need to rehash that again. I was really upset that Jimmy went home, not only because I didn't want to see Jimmy go home, but also because it was horrible gameplay. And like, even if somebody I really like goes home, if it was done well, I can like appreciate that, and that can kind of like subside the pain. Like, obviously I was sad, but there's like a level to Jimmy going home that especially upset me because it was like so stupid and so annoying. And Mickey had really pissed me off. It was like a suddenly people that I thought were good players and I was excited for, like, started fucking sucking at the game, and it was just really, really annoying to watch, right? So going into the week, I was like, I don't even care anymore. Who knows? I was like, even if it's somebody that I'm rooting for, they could make the worst decisions ever. So I was very tentative going into week 5. So week 5, the HOH competition is a knockout competition. And okay, this was so funny to me. Well, first, there was a lot of like big deal about like the votes for like, there were 2 votes for Jimmy. It's like, why the fuck do you care? That was annoying to me. But anyways, the HOH competition is a knockout competition. And the very annoying aspect was that Riley, Zach did it too, but I blame Riley because I feel like he started the trend, and these people are recruits, so I guess they've just never seen a knockout competition. But the point of a knockout comp is that you pick two people that you want to eliminate, like you want one of them out of the competition, right? Duh. So Riley is like the first out or the first to win, so he gets to pick two people, and he's like, who wants to volunteer? That's not how that works. Then Zach asks people to volunteer. It's like, why are you asking people to volunteer? This isn't about volunteering. You're supposed to like pick people that you want to go against each other, people you want out of the, what? Anyways. But basically a lot of people like target Rachel. Ava and Will also really aren't getting targeted much. Like nobody's calling them out. So then they're the final two, and Will hits like the buzzer like almost immediately. Also, it was called Jack the Dipper, and it was like you had to how many like it was this guy who's Jack the Ripper knockoff who was dipping like into sauce, which like you just know somebody on that competition team thing, they saw somebody double dipping and they said, I'm gonna be shady, I'm gonna make a competition so they know that I noticed that they were double dipping, and that bothered me. But they had to like pick up how many times Jack the Dipper put a chip into each sauce and then guess which one he entered the most. I get the pun. Again, I do think it was probably somebody trying to be shady and being like, I know you dipped your sauce, you double dipped a bunch of times and that bothered me. Maybe not, but it was giving passive aggressive. But like Jack the Dipper, did we really need to do that? Like Jack the Ripper was like a horrific serial killer. Like I get that the whole theme is like Hotel Mystere, but could we not like make jokes of things that aren't like that funny? I don't know. Like the whole true crime murder thing, I just feel like murder has become not as big a deal as it should be, especially like violent like sexual assault and murder. It's like, let's not, okay, whatever. But Ava and Will are the last two, and he like buzzes in immediately, like before Jack can dip all the sauces, all the chips in the different sauces, so he has no way of knowing he's right. So Ava wins. And when I found out that Ava won, I was super excited, but I was tentatively excited because, again, I was excited when Mickey stole the power from Riley, and then the week went to shit. So, like, I was tentatively excited about Ava being HOH because I'm like, Ava could make a decision that I really don't like. When Feats came on, the first conversation, or like one of the first conversations I saw, was her telling Rachel that it was going to be Zach, Vince, and Keanu. And I was like, cool, so those are the nominees. What we saw on the edited episode, which this happened before Feeds came back, was that she was initially thinking Ashley, Vince, and Keanu. And Keanu, because she yelled at him, they had a beef. Vince, because he seems kind of sketchy and he's aligned with a lot of people. And then Ashley, because Ashley just talks too much, I think was the main reason. When Feeds came on, I didn't even know that Ashley was a consideration, because by the time Feeds came on, Ashley was no longer a consideration, because basically Mickey and Will convinced her not to nominate Ashley. So I didn't even realize Ashley, and maybe other people did, but I didn't even realize that Ashley had been a consideration for Ava until I watched the episode. But Ashley had been a consideration, and then Mickey and Will convinced her not to. And this is important to note because we saw a moment in Sunday's episode where Ava tells Zach, "You're good." Ava, I thought this was fun. Ava tells them, like, I'm not doing one-on-ones. If I want to talk to you, I'll talk to you. Like, I'll pull you. But she does see, like, Zach out in the hallway outside of the HOH, and she's like, "You're good." Or I don't think she said "you're good." She just, like, said, like, she wasn't like, I'm not going to nominate you. But also, it wasn't like a purposeful, like, she did know she was going to nominate him and she just lied to him. Like, she genuinely didn't think she was going to, like, that wasn't her plan. But then Mickey and Will swayed her. So then Zach just ended up being the person that she nominated. And I will say, when, like, those were the nominees, I was already going through the scenarios in my head of, like, a potential Jimmy-esque HOH where Ava will have to nominate 5 people because Zach has the power, and then, like, Keanu could win veto because he's great at that. So it was like, hypothetically, Keanu wins veto, saves himself, and then Zach uses his power, saves himself, then Ava will have to nominate 2 more people. So in my mind, I was going through the different scenarios, who the other people would be. Right. So like that was something I was going through my brain throughout the whole time. I was like, who would the other people be? I was going through all the scenarios, trying to like not be upset about any potential scenario, because last week I didn't see the Jimmy thing coming and it really upset me. Although honestly, after Ava was convinced not to nominate Ashley, I was like, I don't think anybody I care about super, super deeply will end up on the block, even if it's like a 5 people end up nominated and it like she nominates Morgan and then she nominates Lauren, and like I like Lauren. I don't want Lauren to go anytime soon. I don't think Lauren, like I wasn't that worried, because I'm like, even if Lauren's on the block, like who is she going to be up against that they're going to vote her against anybody that's on the block? Like Lauren right now is such a non-factor that I feel like she'd be safe. And okay, not to go on a tangent about how I feel about Lauren, but like I'm really torn on Lauren, because she was HOH and then she's kind of like just done nothing. And I don't want to underestimate her, because I'm like, in the early, like the week before she won HOH, she had a DR where she was like pretty good at like clocking where she was in the house and like the sides and everything, and how she was kind of playing the middle. She really struggled being an HOH. I think ultimately it didn't leave her in a worse spot. And then she's kind of faded to the background and been like a non-player. And we haven't gotten like any DRs from her in a while. I think for like the last week, we haven't gotten any DRs from her. So I don't really know what's going through Lauren's head. And it's not like she does cam talks. So it's hard for me to know. And I don't want to like discredit her or like write her off and assume that she's not clocking things. She's not like strategizing, even though we're not seeing it. So I don't know. I'm torn on Lauren, and I do really like her. And she seems like a really, like, I'm going to like follow Lauren. Like I'm a stan now, not in like a creepy way, but like I'm a follower now. I'm a fan of Lauren's. I like her whole vibe. I find her very endearing. Like I enjoy watching Lauren. It's just as a game player, I don't want to underestimate her and like assume that she's not gaming, even though outwardly we're not seeing it. But we're really not getting much from Lauren, and it just sucks because we're also just not getting like any kind of narration in the DRs to get more insight into what she's thinking, which I do think have been some of her best moments and the most insightful moments for me, because I feel like Lauren is a very soft-spoken person, and she's not very commanding in conversations where she's like explains her thought process on things. So it was like the DRs have really been the moments where I feel like we've gotten to know more of how she views the game. And it sucks that we haven't gotten many of those. But anyways, so Lauren was like a person I had in the back of my mind that I was like, she could go up, but she probably won't go against whoever she's up against. Anyways, so those were all things in my mind, right? Friday rolls around. She nominates Keanu, Vince, and Zach. Zach is pissed. Also, many times throughout the week, Zach keeps talking about, other people keep talking about, like Morgan, his allies, right? Keep talking about the fact that Zach saved Ava week 1. No, he didn't. Like, no, he didn't. If Zach saved Ava, then whoever chose Zach to be have not saved Zach. Like, it wasn't like Zach unilaterally had, like, Zach on his own had the power to decide who was going to be safe for the week, and he chose Ava. Like, that's so annoying. Also, it's not like Ava was like, oh, he saved Ava. No, he just like, would Ava even have been a target? Unlikely. And you know what makes that especially clear to me is that 5 weeks in the knockout HOH comp, nobody chose her. Nobody chose her. People kept getting eliminated, and nobody was saying Ava come to the podium, even though she hadn't gone yet. So like, no, I don't think Ava was in danger that you saved her, quote unquote, because you chose her to be a have-not, which saved her. Like, let's be real. That's a little bit unserious on his behalf. But whatever. I honestly, at this point, like Friday, Saturday, I think honestly, for the most of the week before the veto, the noms changed, Zach was not super a consideration in my mind of people who could potentially go home, because I was like, he's gonna use his power. He said on Sunday's episode, I'm going to win that veto, and if I don't, I'm going to use my power. Saturday rolls around. We know he didn't win the veto. Sorry, spoiler, Zach doesn't win the veto. So I'm like, okay, Zach's going to use his power. Duh. And there was a little bit of an inkling in my brain, right? There was a little, a seed of an idea of like, wouldn't it be so funny and so stupid if he didn't use his power? Like, no way that happens because he's going to use his power. But like, what if he did it? Like, that would be so funny if he didn't use his power and then he stayed on the block and he went home. Like, that would be so funny. But it's not going to happen because why wouldn't he use his power? Saturday, the veto. The veto was the classic gift swap. I don't know. In my mind, it's white elephant, but I know it's not white elephant. But it's like somebody's eliminated every round and then you get a prize and the last person gets the pick of the litter, right? So, speaking of litters, if you hear any background noise, it's not my foster kittens because I'm no longer fostering kittens. They all got adopted. I miss them. I was editing the episode, like last week's podcast episode, after they got adopted because they all got adopted at a kitten adoption fair that I took them to on Saturday. And so I was finishing up the podcast editing Saturday night and I was like, I heard them sometimes in the background and I was like, oh, I missed them already. I'm really happy they all got adopted though. Anyways, moving on. And it's still like the summer's not over. I'll probably get at least one more litter of foster kittens for the year. Hopefully, we'll see. But last year I literally got foster kittens in October and I fostered them all the way up until like the end of the year. So, because basically, if you don't know, sorry, really quick tangent, and then I'll get back to Big Brother. But basically, kitten season, quote unquote, is summer most of the time. And as the climate changes and it's hotter for longer, kitten season lasts longer. The shelter I volunteer with, they got like bottle babies in like November, and that was like super rare. Like kitten season goes on for longer now because the weather is more hot, which means people rescues and shelters. I volunteer with a municipal shelter, the Burbank Animal Shelter, actually, which is so slay because Big Brother isn't they're in Studio City, which is like right near Burbank, the Big Brother studio, I mean. But anyways, they need volunteers. Anyways, sorry, not all rescues, wherever you are. If you're interested in fostering. But anyways, not to go on that tangent. The veto competition was like that classic one or whatever. And I liked this one. I didn't like the Jack the Dipper comp, but I liked this one in terms of like it was on theme. And I also loved the costumes. Like they were dressed so cute. I'm like, I would want to keep that suit. Like sometimes they have outfits like America and Corey, like they still have that pink like jumpsuit from OTEV, I think. Was it? Yeah, it was OTEV. Well, it was like OTEV and Zingbot. It was like Zingbot OTEV combo. The OTEV Zingbot combo meal. I'm at the Zingbot. I'm at the Pizza Hut. I'm at the Taco Bell. I'm at the combination Pizza Hut and Taco Bell. I'm at the combination OTEV and Zingbot. Anyways, so it was like paint. They still have that jumpsuit. I'm like, if I was the people in this house, I would keep this suit, the suit competition with the hat. Like, it was so cute. I loved the outfits, the color scheme. Ava's was like lavender, Catherine. Because playing in the veto were Ava, Keanu, Zach, Vince, and then Catherine was picked, and Will was picked. So those were the 6 people playing in the HOH competition. First out is Will, and he gets some kind of punishment. I think he gets the partners in crime punishment. Then second out is Zach, and he gets a trip. Actually, maybe he's the third out. Maybe Keanu's the second out. And then it really doesn't matter. All that matters is that the last 2 people out are Vince and Catherine. And when Ava gets out, she gets a punishment, but she switches with somebody. I think she switches with Ava gets out, she gets a punishment. She switches it with Keanu, maybe, who sorry. Ava gets the butler punishment and she switches with Keanu, who got $5,000. So she has $5,000. So when Vince is out, he gets a punishment. He gets a punishment too, but he's thinking, I'm going to switch it I'm going to get the veto, and then Catherine will probably take the money from Ava and leave me the veto. Catherine And this was so fascinating to watch, of Vince just begging Catherine to give him the veto. Like, please don't take the veto from me. I've wanted to be on the show for 10 years. Please don't take the veto from me. And Ava's even like, do what you need to do. Like, I don't even care if you, like, she's like, you can take the money. It's fine. And Catherine ends up keeping the veto. And you know what? I applaud her for this decision, because I think at the end of the day, unless you are like 100% guaranteed safety, like, I just think it's also like, it's a win for you, because even if Catherine placed first but she didn't win the veto, she technically, I don't know, I mean, like, Jared in Big Brother 25, Jared won this veto because Matt thought that the punishment was a reward, and he wasn't in danger, so he didn't take the veto from Jared. But then Matt got a punishment and Jared got the veto, and Jared was like, ooh, I won a veto, even though he wasn't the last one out. So it's like, you know, like, if you have the veto at the end of the competition, you're viewed as like the winner of the veto, even if you didn't win the competition. So I understand Catherine wanting to be like, I want this win under my belt. And it's also like, it's always good to have power. And I think, honestly, a veto is a good power to have over like an HOH, because the veto, it gives you some kind of like currency, right? Where people have to come to you and campaign and try to get you on their side, and you can like get into people's like it's a good way to initiate game conversations with people who maybe you don't talk a lot of game to, and like just gauge where people are in the house, and like who, if people want the veto used, if they want certain people saved, if they don't, because maybe they feel like they're in danger. Like, a veto is a good power to have, because automatically you're safe and you don't outwardly have to target anybody. You could save somebody, or you could be like, I don't want to mess with the HOH's decisions, but it still gives you the capital to like engage in conversations in a way that I think is really good. Like, I think a veto is a really good power to have, especially if you're not the person on the block with it. If you're on the block with it, obviously you should take it. But I think even if you're not, it's very good power to have, and probably less pressure than an HOH, because you're not like, oh, it's on me to decide who is nominated to then get sent home, right? There's more power in an HOH, whereas a veto, you still have a little bit of capital, but there's less pressure to like, your decision can save somebody, but it won't automatically, like, it won't unilaterally be the reason somebody goes home, in the same way that like nominating them is more directly like, I'm sending you home kind of thing. So I think a veto is always a useful thing to have, even if you're not in danger, because again, like, then Catherine was able to have certain conversations with people of like, oh, maybe certain people are targeting her showmates. Like, she got information and she got conversations, and she became a player without a ton of pressure of like, Catherine used the veto on me, please, you know? So I think she made the right decision. And at the end of the veto competition, she had the veto. Vince had an egg detective punishment. Zach had the partners in crime punishment, which he chose Rachel. Ava had $5,000. Will got a trip to London, which Zach had originally got, but he gave that to Will and took the partners in crime punishment, which was sweet of him. I will give him that, which I do think was honestly out of the kindness of his heart. But I think he also, like, that was good strategy, right? That wins him favor. And even like Will said, like, I can't go against Zach now, like that he earned a number in me. So it was smart. It was smart in that regard. Last smart thing Zach did all week. I'm sorry to Zach. I mean, I'm not, but I am. Anyways. Oh, and Zach chooses Rachel to be his partner in crime. And then Keanu gets butler punishment. Keanu's is basically that he has to wear a silly costume, of course, with a giant butt. And he has to make them, like, the house guests, pigs in blankets anytime that, like, the little voice says hello. Oh my God, there was one moment which they showed in the edited show where where Mr. B, Big Brother, is like, Keanu, make Riley a pig in a blanket. And it's like the middle of the night, and he does it, and he brings it to Riley. And Riley's like, did they tell you to? And Keanu's like, yes. And then Riley says no. That's so mean. That's so mean. Also, they didn't show this in the edited show, but I thought it was so heartwarming. Kelly's a vegetarian, and he would just make her the crescent rolls, no pigs at all. That was so wholesome. I'm like, so slay. Just the blankets, no pigs, because she's vegetarian. Kelly's really growing on me. I will say she was like not super, like game-wise, she wasn't super present this week, but she's growing on me. Keanu's also growing on me. Like, I have to be honest. I don't know why. I just, it really stands out to me. Like, when somebody on feeds, like, it feels like they're like a negative force versus a positive one. And not that Keanu was particularly a positive one, but it seems like he's trying his best, and it doesn't seem like he is, like, I don't know. Okay, like, Mickey has really become, for me personally, very difficult to watch on feeds, because she's very, like, she, in my opinion, has bad game sense and is making bad game decisions and reads and everything. And also is just very mean sometimes. Like, she says things and it's like, why are you being so negative? Like, why are you being so mean? Nobody did anything, like, nobody did anything to warrant you suddenly, like, hating them. Like, please, calm down. Like, Mickey is just unpleasant to watch. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to her. I really am. Please do not be mean to me, Mickey. She's never going to listen to this. But if you do, Mickey, I'm not trying to say anything bad about who you are as a human being, okay? But your feeds are a little bit, like, frustrating to watch. They are. I will say I was so happy. This is like so minor, but I was so happy when Thursday's show, like, I felt like the edit, it really spoke to me. I'll get to it. Okay, also, sorry, really quickly, because I forgot to mention this. I meant to go on a mini Big Brother Unlocked rant. I told myself I was going to do that, and then I forgot. But the main thing I want to say about Big Brother Unlocked is that, like, I don't know. I think it's just hard when you're a live feeder, because it's like things move really fast, and it's like they filmed it like Thursday night, which we know because Jimmy was on it like immediately post eviction. Also, I think they posted behind this. Like, I think it was obvious they recorded it Thursday night, but they recorded it like it because it's going to air on Friday. They're doing stuff only in the context of like the last thing we've seen. So when they did like house guests on top, it was like people who we knew, the live feeders, who already knew who won HOH and who Ava had already nominated by the time Friday's episode went out. But like by the time BB Unlocked went out, like we already knew that the people that they put on top were on the bottom. So it's like, I don't know. Big Brother Unlocked, like, I liked it. I liked it a little bit, and it's not my vibe. I like some of the segments. It just, like, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan. That being said, if the Emmy Awards is ever big enough that they invite me as a guest on Big Brother Unlocked, I will go. I live in LA. Don't invite me. But it's like, you know how they have, like, the super fans and they bring people on? I'm like, imagine I'm just there on Big Brother Unlocked. That'd be so unserious. You know who I do hope they bring on Big Brother Unlocked in all seriousness? Quinn. Anyways, sorry. Where was I in my thought process? I don't remember. Okay. Saturday. That's where we end, right? Catherine has the veto. It's like, is Catherine gonna use the veto or not? I honestly didn't think she was going to. When I found out Catherine won, I was like, okay, nominations probably aren't gonna change. Besides Zach, I was like, nominations will change, but this is good because then Ava will only have to nominate one person, and like at this point it's going to be Morgan, and I'm completely fine with it being Morgan. So I like at that point I was like, okay, that's fine. Also, this was crazy to me. I'm sorry, and we saw this in Wednesday's episode, but after the veto, we saw this I think either on Wednesday's episode or no, it was Wednesday's episode, and this was where I was like, man, Mickey, please, please, enough. Mickey tells Ava that Morgan would consider targeting Ava. So naturally, Ava's like, okay, if somebody comes off the block, Morgan will be my replacement nominee. And then Mickey's like, hold up, I didn't tell her that because I wanted Morgan to be the target. It's like, girl, why would you tell the current HOH before the veto ceremony that somebody who you wouldn't want going on the block is targeting her? Like, maybe tell her after, when she no longer has the power to nominate people, if you really like don't want it to somehow be like, oh, Mickey knew this information and didn't tell me. Like, why are you telling her there then and then being upset at the idea that Ava would want to nominate her? Like, that was so unserious. Like, Mickey is not a good player. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She's just not. And maybe she could have been. Like, I think my problem with recruits is that a lot of the times I'm like, I feel like you could have been a better player if you did the research. And it's just like, you just don't have, even the way she talks about Rachel's game. And it's like, I don't know if this is genuinely her trying to convince people to turn on Rachel by like framing Rachel's game in the way that she thinks will be the most dangerous to people, as like this will make people want to target Rachel. But it's just like she describes things and it's like that's actually not the case at all. That's actually like, she was talking about how Rachel was like a master manipulator and that's how she like won her season. It's like that's actually not the case at all, okay? On both of her seasons, she was like fighting tooth and nail. There were like a lot of moments where like the situation just worked out and like Rachel really won a competition she needed to win or she was going home. She was not like a master manipulator, had them all under her spell, like misted her way to the end, okay? Like that is not Rachel's story. And that's not to discredit Rachel's win or the way that she went about it, because just because somebody's path to being a winner isn't being like a master manipulator doesn't mean that like that wasn't impressive. But it's just like that's not accurate to her game at all. Not only is it not accurate, it's like so far from like that's actually not Rachel's thing at all. Anyways, like it does bother me because like as much as there are things about Vince that bother me, I'm like at least I can be like, you know what, he wants to be there. He wants to be there. I'd rather somebody beg to have the veto given, like to not have the veto taken from him, than somebody who like doesn't know what's going on and doesn't care and still thinks that like, you know, in that regard, I'll give it to Vinny. But anyways, so like Morgan is the potential renom. Obviously, I don't know if it was up in the air that Kat would use the veto, because I didn't really buy it. I was like, who would she even use the veto on? Like, I really was, when I found out Kat won, I was like, I don't think Kat's going to use it. Who's she going to use it on? And I don't know who she would have used it on. But Ava was super down to nominate Morgan. So, like, Morgan was going to be the replacement. At that point, I was like, okay, Morgan will probably be on the block after Zach uses his money to get himself off the block. Monday rolls around. Guess who stays on the block? Zach. Zach does not use his $10,000 to save himself. And nominations remain the same. The first time all season, the nominations remain the same. And I was like, that's so funny. At that point, I was like, you know what? I have kind of wanted, of all the people, Keanu's growing on me. Vince has like a spell on people that is annoying to me, and also like here's the thing about Vince, okay? If he just owned the fact that he had his hand in many different pots and that he was playing both sides of the house and that he was scheming, it would be a lot more compelling to me. It's like this thing where he's like, in the DRs, it's like it's in the privacy of the DRs. That's the moment where you can be like, yeah, you know what? I was kind of being schemy. I am trying to influence people's HOHs. I wish he would say that. I wish he would even be like, I am kind of complaining and begging and emphasizing how important this is to me because I don't want to go home. It is part strategy. Like I wish he was more honest about it, because then I could root for him more. But it feels like he's like trying to have his hands in every pot and trying to influence things and trying to get things to go his way, and then being like, but I'm not doing that. I'm being overestimated. That's not what I'm doing. It's like it's fine if you want to say that outwardly, but like I wish in his DRs he could be like, yeah, I did try to push my agenda with Lauren's HOH. I think she has a mind of her own, and I don't think she ultimately did what I wanted her to do. But I was trying to sway my vote. I was trying to cover my bases. Like, and the confusing thing to me too is I feel like, and maybe I'm misremembering, but I feel like in his DRs, when he was in those moments where he was like promising people a bunch of things, I feel like he was saying like, I'm trying to cover all my bases. I wish he could like, when he was put in danger and that gameplay was called out, he could be like, you know what, I was doing that. Maybe I did it a little bit too, like, I don't know. Like, that was the part that really got me. And maybe he was just beat down, you know? And I'm sure that egg costume was really heavy. I really liked the egg costume. I'm not going to lie. I don't know why, but I was very fond of the egg costume. That's my truth. So, like, going into the week of the three, I was like, honestly, I think Vince going home, I would like the best, because I feel like he has, like, a sway on a lot of people in the house that, like, I find annoying and frustrating, because it's like he's trying to miss them, but he's not even owning that he's missing them. And so that part is what bothers me. Like, I like somebody who's like, yes, I am trying to stab you in the back. I want to win. Where I don't feel like he if he was more outwardly cutthroat, I would like it, you know? But anyways, that's who I wanted to go of the three. Because even though I wanted Zach gone sooner or later, like, I didn't care for Zach. I was like, honestly, I think I think there'd be a really interesting shift if Vince went home. There would be a real impact on the game where, like, Zach, there would be some kind of impact. Like, it would be a number lost for some side of the house. But in terms of swaying things, I feel like Vince has, like, a stronger hold on them, if that makes sense. So I was like, he was who I wanted to go home. But when Zach didn't use his power, at that point I was like, I'm getting his suitcase. Get him out of my house. Get the fuck out of my house. Like, I was like, go home. Go home. Please, go home. Like, you have a guaranteed you're off the block and you're not using it. It's like, for what? Like, it's really giving, I didn't want to give, well, I mean, it's not, he said it. He didn't want to give Ava his $10,000. Like, I think that has to just be it. The $10,000 can't be, it's not like it's like $1 million, okay? It's $10,000. Your stipend, if you stayed longer, you would make that eventually. Plus, the longer you stay, I mean, honestly, I don't know how much this translates to Big Brother, but it's like, it's better to stay on the show longer because you have more of a chance to win audiences over. Like, screen time can, you know, like, people who go pre-jury probably statistically have less followers than people who are, like, in the final three. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not just about, it's stupid. It's stupid to gamble with that. It's $10,000. $10,000 is a lot of money. I'm not saying it's not, okay? But there are people literally on feeds talking, like, now post the eviction, talking about how Zach, because spoilers, Zach went home. There are people on Thursday after, like, feeds came back from that HOH comp, which I'll talk about next week. Very excited about the week 6 outcome. Like, so excited to talk about that next week. I don't want to, like, jump ahead. But, like, there are people talking about how Zach going home is so surprising to them because they thought he would for sure be final 2, like, for sure be final 5 at least. Like, they saw him going far. And it's like, why keep $10,000 when you had, like, a decent chance at the money? And I will say something I really loved about this week and I really appreciated was it really clarified to me and, like, emphasized to me that some of these people who I thought were good players were just in a good position because Zach was somebody who and I said many times, I felt like he was in a really good spot and he was really well insulated and I didn't see him going anytime soon. And I felt like he had, like, a decent game sense. And it was very interesting to me to see that a lot of that was just, like, luck and positioning and the people not wanting to target him. And, like, the moment he's on the block, not even as an initial target, he fumbled it so badly. I don't understand. It's, like, it's not worth the risk. It's not. Also, I haven't touched on this much because I don't really care for it. But it was relevant-ish to the game because Rachel tried to use it to convince Catherine to use the veto in order to get Morgan to be the replacement nominee. But, like, Catherine and Riley are in a showmance, and that was, like, brought up. I really don't like Riley. I touched on this a little bit last episode, but, like, he makes me uncomfortable. He gives me the heebie-jeebies. I do not like him. I don't like him, and I don't like their dynamic, and, like, I wish her the best, but I don't like him, to be honest, so I don't really care for their showmance. But that was something that was brought up. And also, because this was something I talked about a little bit last week, but it came to more of a head because they want Rachel to be in jury. That came up again, and Rachel was mad at Morgan about it. So she was then trying to get Morgan to be the replacement nominee, which is why she went to Catherine about the whole Morgan wants to target the showmance thing. Which, like, quick rant, but the insistence on, like, jury this, jury that, who we want on jury is really annoying as a viewer because it's like, maybe get through the next week. Like, the jury is smaller. So I don't understand why you're thinking about, like, who's going to be in jury and who's going to, like, think about getting through the week. Things change really fast. Why are you, like, I don't know. Like, that is really annoying to me. And I understand why it would be annoying to Rachel, because she's like, I'm playing to win. And I think, honestly, it's, like, offensive on a lot of levels, because it's not just, like, underestimating her game, but it's, like, not taking the game seriously in that, like, yes, being on the jury is an honor and it's important, and it's an important part of the game. I think if you're a fan, being proud of yourself, or even if you're not a fan, but, like, just being proud that you made it to, like, that important stage of the game and you are playing a role in who wins, I think that's great. I'm not saying, like, jury is nothing. It's super important to, like, the structure of the game. But I think when you're playing for jury and you're playing, like, who's going to be on the jury, instead of playing to win and playing to make sure that you're the last person standing, it's not only offensive to, like, Rachel and what she's capable of, but it's offensive to the game that she clearly loves so much. You know? It's like, why are you trying to play for this milestone instead of, you know? So I understand Rachel's, like, frustration and upset, but obviously Morgan didn't end up getting nominated, which, you know, is what it is. Morgan, she'll be gone soon enough, probably. I'm doing this a bit out of order, sorry, but, like, this was in the edit. But Mickey's HOH-itis from the week before kind of just, it didn't go away. It kept going. And the way she just, I will be honest, I didn't watch enough of her on feed, because anytime I saw her, it really, really upset me. But there was a conversation, and they showed this in the episode, so, like, obviously it was important. And I really appreciated this, because I'm like, thank you for showing Mickey the way that I see her. But, of her, the way she was talking to Ashley about, like, getting the votes that were best for her game. And Ashley's like, well, best for, like, our games, right? And she's like, right. Anyways. So, like, and Rachel said this, and I agree. She was like, Mickey got power, and it, like, changed her. And I agree. It's, like, terminal HOH-itis. And I love it. Ashley said this in the DR. She's like, I thought this was Big Brother, not big dictatorship. And I literally have been saying that it's like, it's not a dictatorship. The HOH doesn't have final say. And the fuck of it all is she's not even HOH anymore, and she's still acting like she has, like, the final say, and, like, that she's running her team. It's like, you are not the leader. You are not the leader. You are not the leader. And again, it'd be one thing if it was just, like, an unearned confidence, and, like, no, it's that, and also being, like, mean and judgmental about the other people, and, like, being like, I'm gonna make everybody dinner except Rachel. It's like, why do you have to be so vindictive and mean? Is it, like, I don't understand that, because it's like, anytime I've been angry and, like, wanted revenge or wanted other people to be miserable, that's, like, so exhausting and, like, unpleasant. Like, that's not a pleasant feeling. It doesn't fill my cup to, like, wish people were miserable. It doesn't. I don't understand it. Like, how is that not exhausting to be like, I want to do something to evoke a negative emotion in somebody? It's like, is that not, like, emotionally draining? I don't know. I don't even know. But, like, Mickey really started turning on me, and it bothered me. Okay, also, I forgot to talk about this, but Zach's punishment with Rachel was, like, I don't know how to explain it. There were money bags in the backyard, and only 4 of them, like, were real, quote-unquote, money, and the rest were counterfeit, and every time they got a counterfeit bag, it exploded with blue goo, and then they were stuck in a jail cell until then they could, like, the sirens went off, and then they could go try to get more. And they did this for hours until they did complete it. It's unclear to me if they would lose anything if they didn't complete it. Like, the Piggy Pals from Big Brother 25, they lost the chance to play at the veto, like the next veto. I don't know if they lost anything if they lost the competition. Okay, also, Zach told Morgan on Monday, after he didn't use his power, he told Morgan about the power. But he says he didn't do it because Morgan would have been the replacement. I don't buy that. I think that's a lie. I don't buy it. I'm sorry, I don't buy that. Does anybody buy that? I don't buy that. And if that is the reason, then that's stupid. I mean, whatever the reason is, that's stupid. But it's like, I'm not giving up my game for anybody. Like, what do you mean? Even if Morgan goes up and goes home, that's better than you going up and going home. At the end of the day, he didn't want Ava to get $10,000. That's what it is. Mickey begins to turn on Rachel. Mickey's a very... I'll stop harping on her, but it's like she's just a very negative person. And she seems to have some kind of disdain for Ashley, which is confusing because she did kind of save Ashley with Ava's HOH. But it's like at some point in the week, Ashley and Lauren seem kind of close, and then after that Mickey's like, I'm going after Lauren. It's like, who don't you dislike? Except Riley, apparently, for some reason, because the spirit of Jesus Christ. You know what? That's not Jesus Christ. That's the devil. It's the devil. I'm sorry. Rebuke him in the name of Jesus. I'm sorry. That was blasphemous. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me, Christ. Thank you. Amen. Anyways, for a while, it's like Vince is the target. If Keanu's on the block, it seems like Keanu, a lot of people will, but between Vinny and Zach, it seems like Vince is still the target. People want to keep Zach. But then something shifts, and I think people are like, Vince can't go home. To the point where on Thursday, before feeds cut for the episode, Rachel was trying to convince Keanu not to throw the blockbuster because he really didn't want Vince going home. It was so unserious. Like, I'm sorry. Why are they all so stupid? You have to laugh sometimes. Like, you have to laugh. But yeah, Vince begins to win people over, and I think it's less about sending Zach home and more about, like, people want to keep Vinny. So going into Thursday, it was kind of, like, up in the air, and obviously whoever won Blockbuster was going to be super important because it's like, do I think between Zach and Keanu, Zach stays more likely? I'm not 100% sure, but I think there was something about people wanting to keep Vinny, which again, I want to like Vinny as a player, and I find him very entertaining, and I want to root for him. But there's just something about the way that he like doesn't own his game that I find annoying. I'm not giving like maybe he'll really entertain me. I do really like Lauren still. But anyways, on Thursday, Keanu going into the Blockbuster is he gonna throw it? Is he not? I was like, I need Keanu not on the block. Who thought that I would say that? Not me. My opinions of this cast changed so drastically. I feel like I've had a few like solid people. Like I haven't really changed my mind on Will. I haven't changed my mind on Rachel, obviously. Ava's teeter-tottered a little bit because she bothered me a little bit. And I still, like, there's still some, whatever. I'll talk about my thoughts on her HOH and, like, everything at the end. But, like, I have some stuff I want to say more about Ava. But, like, Lauren, my opinion hasn't really changed. I feel like the same about her. Maybe a little bit less all in on her because I'm confused about her gameplay. But, like, besides the people that I feel really firm about, Ashley, I felt like she like made some mistakes and like was kind of a messy player, and now she's like one of my favorites. And since I latched onto her, I haven't changed my mind. But like genuinely, my thoughts on the cast changed so drastically because I really liked Morgan and Mickey. And I was like fine with Keanu and Kelly going home, and now I want Morgan and Mickey out before I want Kelly and Keanu out. Things change so fast for me in this game, so it's like I don't even know. But Thursday's episode, it was like, will Keanu throw it or not? Who will win the Blockbuster is obviously a big thing. In the edited episode, we got like the segment of Mickey and the way people were like starting to doubt her. Which again, big fan. We got a very unnecessary segment that was like, they tried to like recreate the funny segment of like Ava pretending that she's at like, she was like, I act like I'm at war and I haven't heard from like my, that's different. Like that was funny. I didn't like the Vince segment. I didn't think that was that interesting. Sorry to Vince. The Blockbuster, and obviously there's a lot of like, where will the votes lie build up. The Blockbuster is like a puzzle thing where it's like you have to move all of the things of one color to one thing. If you've ever played those mobile games, you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, Keanu wins. I was cheering. I was so happy. I was like, thank God. At this point, I'm happy with whatever outcome. I think it'd be funny if Zach went home, and honestly, I feel like Zach probably will go home because Vinny seems to, people are more, honed in on Vinny than they are on Zach. So like Vinny's probably gonna stay. And he did. It was actually voted for, it was 2-8. Rachel and Will voted to evict Vince. Will was loyal to Zach because of the kind gesture of the trip. And then Rachel really just wanted Vince out, so she voted for him. Everybody else voted for Zach. Even Morgan, who there was a lot of buildup in the edit before the blockbuster of like, if it's Vince or Zach, who is she going to vote for? And we saw in the edit Zach telling Morgan about his power, and it's kind of like implied of like, she's like, I owe him this debt, like he did it so I wouldn't be the nominee. Again, I don't believe him, whatever. So that was really funny because then she ended up voting to evict him anyway. But Zach gets evicted, funniest outcome possible, loved it, was so happy. And that's where we end the week, and I'm really excited about week 6, which I'll get into it, but I'll get into that next week. But in terms of what I wanted to say about Ava's HOH, I liked it. I'm glad that I think that I've said this many times, but I just feel like you shouldn't nominate pawns or people in your alliance or people that matter to you. And I think Ava did a good job of like nominating people who, like, at the end of the day, she cares about them, but if they go home, it doesn't impact her at all. Where I feel like a lot of people have felt like they need to have one person on the block who's like a buffer. They don't want to upset too many people, but it's like, just get the blood on your hands. And I liked that approach. I like the fact that she was like, I don't want to like talk to a bunch of people. I don't want my mind swayed. I'll talk to the people that matter to me, and I like that. I think there were moments where I feel like Ava didn't game as hard with the HOH. Like she didn't, like what I was saying about Catherine and the veto, having the HOH is great power, not just because obviously you have the ability, not just because you obviously have the ability to nominate somebody and be the reason somebody goes home, but also because you are in a position where people are going to be talking game with you. And I think Ava didn't take advantage of that enough. That's my biggest critique of Ava's HOH. I like the outcome. Like I'm happy with the HOH in terms of the outcome, but I think in terms of like play and my perception on Ava, I don't think she utilized that enough to like ensure that she was planting seeds that would get her to the end game, you know what I mean? So that's my biggest critique of Ava's HOH. I feel like an HOH is important not just to get a target out, but also to position yourself, like to help your game and move it along and start things in motion that will come to fruition later, you know what I mean? So I don't think Ava did much of that, but I think that's all I wanted to say. Sorry if I was a little bit all over the place, but yeah, those are my thoughts. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, please feel free to follow me wherever you listen to podcasts so you can get notified when I upload a new episode. Typically it's been Mondays lately, but I am going to try to do Sundays. I'm just right now, since I'm talking about 3 shows, the episodes are longer. And also last Saturday, I genuinely thought that I'd be able to get it out Sunday, but last Saturday I had a kid in adoption fair in the morning, and then I also worked, like I had a kid in adoption fair from 10 to 2. I mean, I finished at like 1, but from like 10 to 1, and then I had work from like 3 to the evening. So I like my whole day was booked, and by the time I was done with work, I was so tired that I didn't get as much done for the editing, so it ended up going out on Sunday. Or it ended up going out Monday. But because this week I don't have something like that I anticipate taking a lot of my energy, I should be able to spend a lot more time Saturday editing the episode than I did last Saturday. So hopefully this will go out Sunday, but if not, it'll be out sometime Monday, hopefully in the morning. But it's great to follow me just so you can get the notification when the episode goes live. And if you've listened to a few episodes and you enjoy the podcast, it would be very nice of you to leave a rating and a review. Obviously optional, but that would be lovely. And thank you so much. It really does mean a lot. If you have any comments, any feedback, any thoughts on my thoughts, please feel free to comment down below. It really means so much when people listen to the podcast. Like, I can't express how meaningful that is to me. So thank you so much. You'll hear from me next week. And as Julie Chen says, love one another.